For sure. So we're rocking and rolling. Brittany, your audio is going to be down though, okay? I'll turn your audio up when you raise your hand, okay? Perfect. Okay. All right. So welcome to the second episode of Dying at the Bar podcast. We don't have a title for this one yet, but we're really excited because we have two great guests with us today. First, we have Brent. Let us know what company you work for and what you do.
I'm Brent Karlicek. I am the Vice President of Beverage for Upward Projects, a Phoenix-based hospitality company that operates on a national basis.
And then we also have with us today Cartel's very own Sebastian.
I'm Sebastian Maconi. I'm Cartel Roasting Co.'s Quality Control and Training Coordinator for the retail environment.
Perfect. So we are here at Postino in Tempe. I've never been to this location. I live right by Central Phoenix, that central location. I don't know if this one's bigger, but I heard that this one is one of the bigger ones.
I'm glad that you talked about your Postino because
it's
that's
my Postino.
Your Postino, because that's such an important part of the experience, right? Like, what is your location? Which one do you have the relationship with? And Central is my Postino as well. But Postino South Tempe, where we are, is one of the locations I feel a deep connection to based on the art wall to our left, which includes hundreds and hundreds of torn out Thrasher magazine pages that bring me back to my youth, riding that Santa Cruz Corey O'Brien, and arguably hurting myself, a couple times a day.
Wow, so you're an original Dogtown boy then yourself, aren't you?
I wish I could claim to be part of that crew, but it is a passion, definitely.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's cool. I didn't even know that they were actually clippings of Thrasher magazines,
There might be some trans world skateboarding in there as well, but primarily Thrasher.
So, Sebastian, so you've come to this location before and you helped them dial in. This was not a Laurel, right?
No, yeah, I did the first round of dial-ins for all the Postinos, and then Laurel had done another round in between, and then I think I've been to each of them again since Laurel departed. So, yeah, pretty familiar with this one. It's they're all different on the inside, which I love. Everyone is so distinct and has such a unique sort of character and personality on the inside, and it's really impressive to me considering the scale of the operation here that you guys are able to maintain that. It's very cool.
Thank you, Sebastian. The only reason we're able to maintain that is that we have such incredible partners, and can't thank you enough, for all the work you've done in each one of our locations and elevating our coffee program, brother.
Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's a joy. Honestly, every time I come to do it, it's like a treat. I look forward to it every time.
So this is good because then this helps us segue into Upward Projects expansion and their growth, right? Because Sebastian had to go out of state to do some dial-ins. Did you have to go out of state to those other restaurants to make sure that they were like, okay, this is Postino certified or Brent certified?
What an awesome question. That's one of the most exciting things about this expansion, bringing Postino to new neighborhoods, to new communities, making, new friends. An opportunity to ensure that from a hospitality perspective, the energy is there, that with our team, their knowledge is strong. They're able to communicate about our food menu, but I love so dearly our wine and beer menus, but also the vibe of the restaurant and the aesthetic. And I'm excited that we're here in this nook at Postino South Tempe because it's an example of how we showcase our passion for art and for wine and the convergence of the two.
I know that this is probably a taboo question, but have you gone to a Postino's that you were like, this one is my favorite that you've dialed in, Sebastian?
In terms of the...
This could get you in trouble. So
they're actually the one on, I think, Postino Montrose. Is that the one in Central Houston? I had a very nice conversation with one of the head chefs there about coffee, just cluing him in on how much good specialty coffee there is in Houston. It's kind of surprising. You wouldn't think of Houston as like a coffee destination, but when it comes to anything like sensory, culinary, they have a lot of that there, and coffee is no exception. So I get to have a really nice conversation with one of your chefs, find out that you have people who understand the gravity of what we do in specialty coffee on a level that a lot of folks who don't work in the industry don't really grasp super readily. So that was really a treat, and I also got a lot of really good restaurant recommendations from him. I wish I could remember his name. Stellar guy though, and knew like every possible restaurant suggestion for Houston like the back of his hand. He had like 15 to toss out. So
so you know that he's so in the industry.
He's clearly somebody who's following a passion, and also a cool thing to see him, here doing his thing with you guys. So.
Well, shout out to that chef in Houston, Sebastian. Yeah, he likes all Postinos, just this one.
But Postino Montrose in Houston is a remarkable restaurant, and that city, I love Phoenix. And I can't wait to go out this weekend with my wife and enjoy immense hospitality at numerous locations around the valley. But I love eating and drinking in Houston.
Yeah.
It's a great town.
It's incredible. I don't think I love when I can go to a city and not eat at a chain once and not be disappointed with anything I come across, and that's Houston to a T. And all of it, so close together too, like really specialized food, Szechuan restaurants in particular, seeing that they had like multiple really good ones down there. What else did I eat? Barbecue, obviously, just all over Texas, really good. Yeah, it's just a stellar town for food. It's really, really impressive.
As an example, a buddy was actually traveling in Houston this week and sent me a text message last night as I was wrapping some work up. He was at a Franklin Barbecue and Uchi collaborative restaurant that looks off the charts. So we'll have to talk about that later.
Yeah, I'm going to have to get the name of that for the next time I'm out there, for sure.
Well, you said something pretty interesting, Sebastian, about Houston not being known for like this type of culinary destination, but how about Arizona? Were we known for coffee at any point, or did it click for the rest of the nation that we might have really good coffee, even so with wine too? And I think wine really made its mark. The only time that I knew that about wine was the lead singer of what is that rock band?
It's Tool.
Tool, yeah.
Maynard.
Yeah, he opened up a winery, right, in Arizona?
He's been highly influential on the Arizona wine scene, and I think it's worth noting the environment that he's created for a number of younger winemakers to hone their craft, and he's really been an amazing promoter and facilitator for the state. He deserves incredible recognition for that.
So do you know if Arizona is known for wine now, or is it still in its infant stages?
You know what's really amazing to hear recently is that there's a lot of embrace of wine in, let's call it, up-and-coming wine regions. A lot of excitement about what's happening across the Northeast and Vermont and also in New York, then throughout the Southwest. And in many, many conversations, the wines of Arizona are being recognized as some of the best on a national scale when thinking outside the paradigm of California and Oregon and Washington. So really excited about what has happened and also what is to come. We're growing.
It's like those vineyards are actually here in Arizona itself?
So there are a number of American viticultural areas here in the state of Arizona. In fact, very recently, the Verde Valley, up by Cottonwood and Sedona in Jerome, received its official AVA. It's a big win. When we're talking about viticulture in Arizona, we could be, in the Verde Valley, but also down south by Wilcox and Elgin. And
then Sebastian, how about for coffee? Have we made our mark at any given point yet?
Well, this is a very complicated question to answer. First off, speaking as somebody who spent his entire life in Arizona and has grown up here, you're absolutely right that it's going through quite a change. In the last 10 years, it's gone from a place where there wasn't really much of a sense of identity being in Phoenix to really having its own distinct sort of flavor, I guess, je ne sais quoi, however you want to say it. So it's been really exciting to witness that happen. Things like, when I was growing up, there were no local brands. There was not we had Circle K. I don't think that really counts as a cultural force, right? In terms of coffee, for a long time, I think Phoenix's coffee scene has been a bit of a sleeper for folks. I don't think people recognize quite yet just how good some of the coffee we have in town here is. We have a lot of really good sourcing, really good roasting, really good brewing happening right here. Places like Futuro, some of the best and most proficient espresso you'll taste anywhere. The sourcing that comes out of Pear and Mesa, that guy knows, Kim Hawk, the dude who runs that place, knows how to buy coffee and how to treat coffee in the production phase better than a lot of other folks with bigger names and more weight behind them. Cartel obviously has been a mainstay since the very beginning, Infusion. We have a lot that's really positive here, and I'm excited to see people starting to just start at the beginnings of discovering that elsewhere outside of Phoenix. I don't think it's quite hit its critical mass yet, but I'm confident that it will, and I'm really excited for it to have its moment in the sun. No pun intended.
Well, great. I'm glad that you are on the front line, right?
It's a privilege for sure.
And you believe in it, Because you pivoted your career from as an accountant, right?
Sort of. Yeah, I was doing internal audit, so not quite the dollars and cents, more of the operational stuff. But yeah, I went from doing just about the most dry, dull, boring work imaginable to something that I actually care about and that brings joy to people every day. So it's really seriously a privilege. Every morning I wake up and I'm thrilled to be able to do this. I don't even know how I got here. It's just wild.
Yeah. And it's crazy because anywhere in the world, and you're right here,
Yeah.
The universe does conspire.
Yeah.
So we do have some stuff in front of us here. I want to kind of dive into some of this, and then we can drill in a little bit more about some of our past and like why we are sitting at this table and doing what we do today. And then we'll go into some industry stuff too. Is that okay?
Sounds awesome.
All right, cool. So I know that you guys are having, or Postino's is having, a battle of the bruschetta. Can you explain what that is? It looks so cool, but I have no idea what it is.
Well, Battle of the Bruschetta is our opportunity to showcase the talents of an incredible culinary team across the country. And we were able to work with executive chefs at each Postino location to ideate, to develop, to bring to fruition really imaginative and remarkably delicious bruschetta selections. So we have a bracket-style competition taking place where chefs have promoted their example. And over the next couple of weeks, these battles will continue, and there will be a triumphant bruschetta selection, which will end up on menus permanently over the year ahead. So it's been this really wonderful way for our teams to come together, express their creativity, work within the confines of ingredients that are brand on for Postino, that are delicious, that are colorful, that are wine friendly. And then our guests are the benefactors because every week they get to come in and try the two bruschetta that are battling to the death.
This bruschetta, whatever wins, there's just no question that it's going to be great, because of consensus. You're saying that there's going to be a selection of them. So how many win? Like, is it like a flight of bruschetta? Or?
Well, I think in the end, there's only one winner.
Whoa.
One bruschetta will remain.
Wow, like a Highlander situation.
Exactly.
One
yes,
bruschetta.
Yeah, broadswords and all the things. Yeah. Our chefs are wielding weapons in back. It's very dramatic.
You know what? I just pictured that commercial in my head, and we need to green light that for
That's
sure
awesome.
for the next one. I'm a fan of bruschetta. Let's probably see if we can present some of this to the camera. Do you know any description of this?
This bruschetta board that we have in front of us has a combination of some classic selections, two that, despite having consumed them for over 15 years, I still eat on a weekly basis. So the first is the brie and apple with fig spread. So this is really thinly sliced Granny Smith apple with triple cream brie and delicious dark fig spread, a little bit of salt. Then the next is the prosciutto with mascarpone and figs. So we have that base of really creamy, delicious, just hinting at the most tender sweetness of the cheese. And then those sliced dried figs and that really thin sliced prosciutto di Parma over the top, a little cracked black pepper. I look at this and my mouth is watering. You can probably even hear it on the microphone. And then the two selections, which are currently part of the Battle of the Bruschetta, we have this curried chicken selection with herbs and golden raisins. It's savory with this, mild spice component to it. I love all things curry. In fact, big fan of putting curry powder on ice cream. So anything curry, I'm all in. And I think that creates some really fantastic wine pairing opportunities for us, and hopefully we'll dig into that in a moment. And then this last selection is a flavor bomb. This is this kind of piquillo pepper, romesco, and then we have these fried Brussels sprout leaves and some red chilies. It's herbal, it's vegetal, it's spicy, it's salty, it's everything, this bruschetta.
Thank you for the descriptions on that.
Yeah.
I would say that third one, that the chicken curry one, it's almost like an open-faced sandwich.
Agreed.
Yeah, because
almost like a tartine.
What makes it a bruschetta? What is a bruschetta?
Well, we like to say that, bruschetta is just putting delicious things on toast. But it's really about the quality of the ingredients. It's about, locally baked bread. It's about, just the right amount of garlic brushed on that bread. It's about, these classic ingredients that are over the top. And then creating something that is so beverage friendly. Things that are fantastic
friendly.
to pair with different wines and beers off the menu and that are versatile.
Now that you brought up beverage friendly, I just the other day, after working at Cartel for how many years have I been working at Cartel, but what acidity is and why acidity is important for food too as well. So I'm excited. So we could segue into some of those wines that you have pulled out.
Yes.
And those wines, are those something that's part of like a program here? Or is it just like wine by the bottle that you can get?
How wonderful of you to just lay that up. That's amazing. I'm going to alley-oop this.
I'm the Scottie
and
Pippen.
dunk. Yeah. Thank you. So we have a remarkable by the glass program of wines at Postino, and a high percentage of those are projects that we collaborate with incredible winemakers around the world on. We also have a wine club.
A wine club?
A wine club. Yes, it's known as Wine Cult because we feel so passionately about the grape and the vine and the bottle and the glass. So one of the selections that we have in front of us is a white blend from France.
Sebastian, can you grab that one and then bring it kind of over here? Yeah, for sure.
From an appellation called the Côte du Gascon. So we're on the southwest end of France. And this is a delicious blend of a few varietals from the area. We have some Colombard, some Uni Blanc. We have some Petit Manseng. It's really refreshing, juicy, and aromatic style of white wine, which would be spectacular with that brie and apple bruschetta.
I guess we should pour and we should taste.
We should do this.
Let's pour and taste. We kind of did it in reverse because coffee's going to come after, but
It helps sober up after the wine set in.
Well, it's like Thanksgiving dinner. After you fill yourself up, you're going to need a little bit of pick-me-up. So is there a special kind of pouring technique for white and red, or is it pretty much the same universally?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
There are some white wines that come from a few appellations in the world where pouring the wine from a higher elevation into the glass helps to really release a lot of the aromas and flavors in the wine. So I'm thinking of places like the north coast of Spain in the Basque Country, maybe a place like San Sebastian where they make these incredible wines from Handarabi Zuri and Handarabi Belza, and these wines from an appellation called Guitarioco Cioccolina. These wines, when you pour them from a few feet in the air into a glass, you really release the character of the wine. So in some cases, yes, that's something traditional, but I think the most important thing is that we get this delicious beverage into a glass so it can be tasted.
Amazing balance, by the way, Brent.
Thanks, partner. So looking at this wine in the glass, it's just brilliant, right? It's has this star-like brilliance to it, just so reflective and alive. We've got this really pale straw color with maybe some flecks of green, showcasing that this wine is youthful and vibrant.
What is the flecks of green from? That's just from being an organic product.
Yeah, oftentimes when we're looking at the color of a wine, maybe there's a color that's sort of primary, but then there's a hint of something around the edge. And I'm looking across at Sebastian's glass, and I can see it's the straw color, but on the edge, it just has that, just hinting at silver and green. And that, might indicate to me that this wine is youthful because of that green edge. It could also be that it's from a cooler climate.
Sebastian, how's it smell to you? What do you got going on in there?
Really good. It's definitely something that reminds me of apple. I'm much better at tasting and assessing coffee than wine, right? But yeah, apple is kind of the thing that leaps out to me the most. Also, it feels painfully obvious to say this, but grape, yeah. A little bit.
Grape. I wouldn't have guessed that.
That's awesome. I totally agree. I think this is really apple-y, right? It's like green apple-y, golden delicious apple, like fresh tart apple. Yeah.
So is that the rule then? So since you did say that this would pair well with the first bruschetta, which is that one with the apple, is there a rule that you're supposed to do like an opposite complementary taste, or do you want to align with what you're about to eat?
I mean, how exciting that we have so many amazing quote unquote rules around wine and food pairing, and then how amazing that we can just break all of them. I mean, the most important thing is that we're eating something delicious that we enjoy, we're drinking something delicious that we love. But you're right. We could pair like with like. There's tart green apple in this bruschetta. This wine is showcasing this fresh, young, appley quality to it. What a great pairing. We can match aromas and flavors, but oftentimes, wine and food pairing can be really successful when we focus on the structure. And if you guys don't mind, let's take a sip of this wine.
Yeah, absolutely.
When I've got this on my palate, wow, I'm starting to salivate. The acidity we were talking about before is really at the forefront. This wine's really like bright, vivacious, electric. This acidity is such an amazing tool to cut through things that are rich. So thinking about this bruschetta, we do have the green apple, which is a nice pairing with this wine, but we've got that triple cream brie on this toasted bread, and this acidity in this Bayonne white blend is just going to cut through that cheese like a hot knife through butter. It's going to really refresh our palate and get us ready for the next bite.
I got this like intense cooling too as well, but then a warming towards the end of it too. Like,
I love that you just brought those sensations into play, right? There's something that's sort of herbal about this wine, almost like a cool quality there. And then you're right, we start to feel the wonderful impact of alcohol in the wine on our system, and that warming in our chest. It's how cool to explore not only the aroma and flavor, but also the sensation of the wine on the body. Yeah.
There's something in here that also reminds me a little bit of moringa. I don't know if you've ever had that, but like those weird seed pod things. We have some friends who have a couple of those trees in their backyard up in Phoenix that we just pulled a bunch out of. And I'm currently trying to do a lacto fermentation of it. I don't know if it's going to make it or if it's going to mold. We'll see. But something in there reminds me of it, and I can't quite put my finger on it. It's So the thing that surprised me about the moringa is like ever so slightly sweet. It had like a tiny bit of like spice on the back end. I think that's something I might be picking up on here, but Brent would definitely be able to attest to that better than I can. I'm just sort of shooting in the dark here.
No, you're hitting a bullseye with this. When you're talking about that spice, the Manseng family of grapes that are included here, there's definitely something spicy, almost maybe cinnamon-like. There's a very sort of pungent quality to it, and I'm of the thinking that there could be some like thiols that are involved in the grapes. There are these Manseng grapes that are providing this kind of spicy. There's also something that's kind of like pithy and rindy about it. Yeah.
Which is definitely, if anybody listening to this has ever had moringa, that's definitely a core component of the fruit itself. I guess it would be, I don't know if it's a fruit technically or what it is, but...
So
I love this.
Are some people probably listening that don't know, when I say that, I mean myself, what a moringa is, or a morango. Is it like a orange mango? What are you saying?
It almost looks like okra, and it's the closest thing I could sort of draw it to would be like green beans, but that's not at all really. It was really impressive to me because it was a brand new experience for me from start to finish. I'd never tasted anything that was quite like it. But they grow in these long, skinny green pods.
Yeah.
And you got to get them when they're young, because when they get too thick, they get to be a little unwieldy to actually like cook. And they grow natively, I guess, here. I don't know if they're native, but they grow easily in the desert here. So,
well, I think there's definitely a Google moment taking place in approximately 45 minutes, and I'm going to be on the hunt. Yeah, very cool.
Yeah. So have you tasted it like off the vine, or has it been prepped? Does it taste like okra, or textures like okra?
It's more that it looks like okra. The taste, the closest I could draw the taste to would be, and I guess the texture would be like green beans. If you get it when it's appropriate, the appropriate stage to eat. Sorry, you asked me another question there, and I don't remember what it was.
I don't remember either.
Yeah, it was. We had it straight off the. Yeah, it was literally like you just pluck it off the tree.
Only had one sip of wine. It's
I'm a cheap date. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, but no, thank you for sharing this wine. I do have a question about it though. So, what gives it the bubbles? Is it the fermentation process, or do they do a carbonation situation?
That's an awesome question. Thank you for being so clued into the appearance of the wine. You're right. There is just a hint. There's just a little hint of bubble in the wine, and that, might indicate to us that the wine was made in a reductive style and was bottled while still in this state, right? So there's maybe the teeniest bit of dissolved CO2, which for a lot of wines can add a freshness on the palate, a real vivacity.
So that's almost like a natural occurrence where they're doing nothing to...
Nothing actually added to this wine, no. I think just the state that the wine is in, it's showcasing this little reduction.
How about that second and third one? You want to bring those in and kind of like, let's see if we can kind of... While they're getting another glass or a dump bucket for us, is there a certain... Actually, this is not the question I was going to ask you, but is there a term for the discard glass for the wine?
Oh, well, hopefully there is not a discard glass for the wine, because the whole point is to thoroughly enjoy the experience. But no, you're right. If we are tasting and we have a number of wines ahead of us, then forgive the language, but we would probably refer to that glass as the spitter.
Yes, which makes sense. For some reason in my head, the spittoon.
The spittoon.
Okay, so here's a good question for you, Brent. What makes a good label? What, like, to draw out, to go, if I see that on my shelf, what am I looking for? What resonates with me? Or is it because there's so many different wineries, so many different companies, it hits so many different type of audiences?
I think you're opening Pandora's box.
Well, I don't know. I just want to give some market for a wine company some bright ideas.
You are so tuned in that the label of a wine is something that can really pique interest for a guest, right? It really adds to the experience. And you're correct that there is a wine label for every wine and for every guest. There is something that speaks to the ethos of the liquid inside the bottle. There's something that tells a story about a place or a community, and then there's the opportunity to just drive energy around the wine. So labels are something that we are incredibly, and I would say artwork, wine art is something we're incredibly passionate about here at Postino, and we believe that it's a fundamental piece of creating this space that brings people in, that makes wine accessible, that creates a vibration. And really grateful that we have such an incredible graphics team at Upper Projects. They're so talented and
amazing, incredible. Like
really,
some of the best,
remarkable artists.
Yeah, some of the best that I've seen, and it's like here, attainable. It's not something that I saw in some art book or was looking at some agencies in San Francisco or New York. It's like right here. And you're so close to it.
It's so great to be a part of that creative process, right? To talk about what this liquid is, who produced it, where it's from, and then for that to be part of, let's call it a mood board for this upcoming wine art, and then to watch these designers go through their process of connecting with both color and concept, and then bringing it to fruition so that our guests can enjoy that on their table. It's a really amazing process.
I love the fact, because I was picturing in my head of someone shopping at like a grocery store in the wine aisle, but you call them a guest. You call them guest. So in a way, they're like, if they chose you, then you want to provide them with the best kind of service, like the best kind of product. So even if they're shopping for your product at a store, they are your guest.
Agreed.
Wow.
Agreed.
Yeah. This wine in particular speaks to me because it puts me in that vineyard. It puts me in like sitting or standing on a hillside, right? And then just feeling the breeze and then seeing this vineyard. And it's got this old rustic look to it that makes it go, okay, you have authority because you've been around for a long time, passed down from generations. You know what you're doing. You fucked up a couple of things and you fixed them, right? So you know and you're still here, which is great. I have a lot of artwork like that in my living room that I use as a moment of escape where I need to go at a certain time. There's a beach with a lighthouse. There's this is the type of wine I would buy, even though maybe that I'm pushing 40 So that relates to me. It's nothing cool like big red X or something, you know? What does that say to you, Sebastian?
Well, there appears to be some giant thing floating in the sky in the background of the picture on this label, too. So most of what I'm paying attention to right off the bat is that. Do you know what that's supposed to be?
I think that's really exciting that you noted that. This wine, this label, right, is this fusion of sort of history and a little bit of humor. The wine in front of us is the Bonnie Doon Vineyard Le Cigar Orange. So we're having a skin contact or skin fermented white wine in the glass. This label is so fun because there is a law on the books in the village of Châteauneuf-du-Pape in France that no flying saucers are allowed to land in the vineyards. You know, decades ago, they were so concerned about the potential threat, they wanted to make sure they documented that this would not be allowed. So how fun that Rando Graham, one of the original kind of Rhone Rangers in California, is poking a little bit of fun at this law on the books with this cigar volant or flying saucer over these vineyards.
It is actually a flying saucer. I love it.
That would resonate with somebody without even them knowing the history behind that image. And then when someone finds out and uncovers the real meaning behind it, it gives it more this mystique.
Well, I mean, as this moment attests, we're storytellers, right? Humans are storytellers. We live and breathe by that. And how fantastic that this is a story that has so much history and humor behind it. How amazing that at the table we can add a layer of the experience with our guests through that anecdote.
We want to say that we did bring out this second bottle of wine for those who are listening to us in their car or at their office and not seeing this video of it. But we were talking about the second wine here. I do want to kind of step back a little and go why we are listening to Brent. Because Brent is a sommelier, if I am pronouncing that completely wrong.
No, well done.
I don't know if this is true, but you do all the beverages and taste all the beverages for the Upward project or just the wine?
I am grateful to have influence over all the wine, beer, spirits, coffee, and tea across the restaurants of Upward Projects. And I'm also really grateful that I get to do that with a remarkable team. And I have an amazing gentleman named Jared Sawinski and a fantastic woman named Jennifer Delgado that are very much a part of this process of sourcing and validating. And there is no liquid that does not pass our lips before it ends up in the glass of a guest. Yes.
You know, and then I'm putting two and two together. So I'm like, okay, so you had some influence of bringing us on.
Oh, very much. It was a dream come true, not to get emotional, but we're huge fans of coffee. Some of the most magical coffee moments have been at Cartel locations around the valley, and it was a gift when we were able to collaborate on moving forward with Postino, and can't thank you guys enough. It has elevated the coffee experience for not only every guest in every one of our restaurants, but also for us at Upward Projects. We're all very passionate enthusiasts, and you know, our coffee station conversations have never been better now that they're fueled by Cartel.
I love to hear it.
And I want to say something to Kelly, which is the sales director. She, and then also Sebastian's partner in crime, she hooks them and Sebastian, polishes them up. But I will say, Kelly did warn me. She was like, do not ruin this relationship. She was like, whatever you do not ruin this for me. Because, no, she's also really happy that you guys have chose Cartel, to bring us on board.
And this relationship has come to fruition for many reasons, but Kelly played such a remarkable role in that, and so grateful for the level of hospitality that your entire team has offered to us when we've been at one of the locations, tasting through different sourcing, different blends. Your patience and your passion is admirable.
when we partnered with Upward, we wanted you to have your own blend. So it's called the Upward Projects Blend. So if you ever have a chance, please go to Postino's. It's in Postino's, in Windsor, it's in Churn, maybe too as well.
It is
Churn,
indeed, yeah.
I think carries the dark roast, but yes, they have our coffee, and it is good.
So it is good, and Sebastian is actually going to prepare us some so we can kind of sit here too as well. The actual Upward Projects Blend.
Yeah, I'm gonna fire up the V60 and do a little pour over for us shortly here. Do you want me to hop off and do that now?
Let's hop you off. I'm gonna mute you up, and then we'll keep on having a conversation, and then we'll try some coffee.
I'm gonna steal a sip of this.
Thank you for that.
Okay, we're back. Sorry, we took a little bit of a break there. We want to get Sebastian set up, so he's going to pour us each a glass of the Upward Projects Blend, which we're really excited about. So this actual blend is going to be in the new Wine Cult box that Brent has mentioned, and it's going to be considered the out of office blend. And we're really excited because the whole theme is jet set, and I love anything Pan Am, Catch Me If You Can, really anything 1950s, I'm here for. Do you want to explain a little bit about how Wine Cult works if someone's into getting a subscription for wine, and why yours is the one to go after?
Wine Cult is the only wine club that you should have any interest in being a member of. Wine Cult has been it's been a passion project for us. It's been many, many years in the making. Have these incredible relationships with winemakers here, in California and Oregon and Washington, but down in Argentina and Chile and in France and Italy. So many of these special projects that we've had a chance to bring to fruition, we want to find a way to deliver that to a guest and optimally to provide them with a unique Venice opportunity that they just can't find anywhere else. We want to deliver that with an energy and a vibe that is highly engaging and just raises the vibration. And we want to bring that to a guest at a really value-driven price point. So Wine Cult is this quarterly wine club release. It's 4 selections per quarter, and let's say that each box is approximately $60. So it's a way to put the most remarkable, delicious, life-giving wine into your glass at a very reasonable price point, while learning more about all things wine culture. Wine Cult is not just what comes inside the box, although we're very excited about Jet Set and the fact that it includes this out-of-office blend. But also there's a tremendous amount of content on the Wine Cult website that members can engage with and amplify their enjoyment of all things beverage.
And, speaking on your design too of that whole Wine Cult branding, like your app is so amazing, so user-friendly, so navigatable. And then that's just part of the experience too.
Well,
as well for me.
There are a couple of really incredible humans in the IT department that will love hearing that feedback. So I can't wait to bring that back to the office today.
Well, they need to bring that to the office, but they also should be listening to this too as well.
Agreed. I'm sure they will.
So Sebastian, you got everything you need over there, or do you need any help with that?
Just about ready to go. I'm just going to fire the kettle up one more time to make sure we get up to our brew temp, and then I'll start right away.
Cool. And we could talk about going through a little bit of the process and what to look for.
I mean, I can give you a little primer on what we're doing. To begin with, we're brewing, if you can see this, obviously it's a plastic V60. I know a lot of folks balk at plastic. This is much better for heat retention, though, which is why we opt for this over the ceramic one. You have to do a lot less with preheating, and it siphons a lot less heat off the brew overall. So in particular, when you're brewing a light roast coffee, this is a really good way to go. I'm going to be doing pretty straightforward continuous pour today. It's going to be a 1:16 ratio, so we're starting with 24 grams of coffee in. We're going to pour 384 grams of water onto it. You'll see me pour a bloom right up front, and then a spiral pour to about a minute, and then after that it'll be a continuous pour through this drip diffuser. It's called a Milo drip. It looks like a gimmick. It actually makes quite a large difference in terms of minimizing agitation and stopping the brew from stalling out. So I'm going to go fire up the kettle, and I guess I can just talk through it as I'm going.
Yeah, for sure. So when did Wine Cult actually start?
Wine Cult celebrated its 1-year anniversary this past January, so we're about 18 months in. for a few years leading up to the formal launch, we were experimenting with some interesting packaged wine concepts that helped really inform our process and what we've brought to fruition under the Wine Cult banner. Really excited about the success we're seeing across many of our markets. There are about 4,000 Wine Cult members, which is just remarkable to think about.
Incredible. And that's nationwide, right?
It is.
Yeah. And then the best part about it is the curation. I get overwhelmed when I go to the store. The only curation that I do like from it is that they put the cheapest wine on the bottom and then the most expensive one in a cage. That's the only curation I get.
I love, you're mentioning about curation, because when we're thinking about the wines that are going to go together as part of a Wine Cult release, it's an amazing opportunity for us to envision maybe a dinner party that you're having, and what would be the sequence of the courses that you'll have with friends and with family, and how do we ensure that you could have a cohesive start to finish experience through these 4 wines? And then also, how do we ensure that all of the buckets are filled, that for a guest, for each one of the occasions they're looking for, they have that bottle of sparkling when there's a celebratory moment, or they're eating something super seasoned and salty, and sparkling wine is the only thing that will help take that to the next level? Or how do we ensure that there's a red wine for a richer, more savory meal? How do we ensure there's rosé for a little bit of poolside chilling?
That smells incredible from here.
Yeah.
What is going on over there right now?
So we've already got through most of the brew. Right now we're just doing the simple part, which is a nice slow pour on top. So you'll see me, if you're watching the video, you just saw me do a lot of movement in my pouring, and that's to help agitate everything and make sure it's evenly hydrated. And then in this stage, the reason we're opting for the continuous pour over, say, a pulse pour, is that this allows us to keep the brew temperature pretty stable up until we're at our target weight. So it's pretty straightforward. I'm not really moving around too much, just trying to keep it as steady and level as I can until I hit 384 grams. I'm just going to give it a quick little swirl just to knock stuff off the edges and make sure that the bed is level before it starts to draw down.
So Meta, or Instagram, just released a new social media platform that's like rival to Twitter. It's called Threads. And I signed up Cartel for it. It's massive right now. It's like 50 million signups in like 24 hours or something like that. But there was a person that commented or did a status update, and they said that using paper in pour overs is going to absorb some of the oils of the coffee, and that they will lose a lot of what the coffee is supposed to actually give you. And then I said, pre-soak.
Yes, well, you always want to rinse, and most of why you want to rinse is A, it helps you to preheat your brewer, so you want to do it with hot water, but B, it also helps remove any papery flavor that might find its way into the cup. Paper filtering does remove some oils. It depends on the kind of paper you're using. There are fast flow filters that really do very little to the body, whereas on the other end of things, you've got like Chemex filters, the big square ones, which strip a lot out. You don't really lose much in terms of flavor. If your brewing process is adequate, it should still get you a really, really nice cup. To give you sort of an example, like given the choice between a paper filtered brew like this and a French press, I'll take the paper filtered brew almost any time. That's not to say there's anything wrong with French press, it's just my preference. So it's really much more a matter of opinion than right or wrong.
Yes, right? Yes. And that was the debate. The debate was going, do I French press or do I drip? So they landed on French press, but I'm like, okay, there's no wrong way.
No, there's no wrong way. It also depends a lot on the equipment you're working with. If you have a nice grinder, it's a lot easier to do a pour over. If you're working with something that's like a little less fancy, French press is a lot easier to nail down and get a proper brew. It's just a lot less finicky, more easygoing,
So I'm going to have a little bit more of this wine while that coffee cools down so we can actually start tasting some of that. And then did you explain some of what we're tasting in this wine in particular, Brent?
Wine number 2, this is the Bonnie Doon Le Cigar Orange. So this is a skin contact white wine, otherwise known as an orange wine. Grapes here, we're talking about Grenache Blanc and Grenache Gris. And just like with the production of a red wine, we have crushed these white grapes, but left the juice in contact with the skin for an extended amount of time. I think in this wine, they've actually utilized this really cool contraption that's called a roto fermenter as well, that has paddles that move around and ensure that there's a really even extraction of all the aromas and flavors and colors that are available in the skins. I love smelling this wine because there's something that's really orchard fruit driven, and there's something sort of like peach skin, apricot skin. There's something almost a little bruised about the fruit, like a little bruised apple or bruised pear. I love the aroma, but really this wine shines on the palate. Sebastian and I were talking earlier about the feeling of this wine. And if you close your eyes, you could imagine that this is actually a red wine. There's such depth and texture and just the right amount of kind of a phenolic bitterness here that makes this wine so amazing for pairing. I'm like looking at this glass of skin contact white and the curry chicken bruschetta in front of me, and I feel like I can't wait for this to end because I'm going to devour both of these things together.
For some reason, I got a really, I don't know, maybe it's the color that's throwing me off, but for some reason at the end, I'm getting like some sort of whiskey or some sort of bourbon feeling or taste of it at the end. So it's like a very watered version of it. I don't know what it is.
I love where you're going with that. When this wine finishes, right in the front of my palate, I'm feeling this tannin, this phenolic bitterness, this extract, if you will, that is going to make the wine so fantastic for pairing with food. But when you relate it to whiskey, it makes total sense because whiskey is an alcohol that has all of these sort of wood tannins that are infused into the character of it. And when whiskey finishes, you have that same sort of drying sensation from those the barrel tannins. So, yeah, I think on the palate, you're making a really logical connection.
You did say something interesting that I kind of want to know a little bit more about. Is you said sometimes when they do the processing of the grapes, they keep some of the skin on. So when they do wine processing, they remove all of the skin?
This is an awesome conversation to have. So let's say with some white wines, with many white wines, we will take the cluster of grapes or destemmed grapes. We will crush those grapes, and then we simply ferment the juice. And when we do that, we end up with a wine that has all this delicious varietal character, but let's call it a fresher, kind of more vibrant feeling on the palate. But with red wine, we will crush the grapes or the clusters and leave them in contact, leave the skins in contact with the juice and sometimes with the stems for an extended amount of time. It could be a couple of days up to, in certain classic wine growing regions, maybe 2 months. But in this case, this is a fusion of those two. So these are white grapes, but crushed and left in contact with the skins like you would make a red wine, but with white grapes.
I like this one. I don't think I've ever had a wine like this, too.
It's very distinct, yeah. There's something in it that reminds me, it's almost like grassy, floral. There's a lot going on here. Stone fruit, kind of.
Yeah. Is this the ideal temperature to be now having this?
Still a little on the hot side. You kind of want to aim for about 165. You'll also probably want some kind of a palate cleanser. That water will really come in handy because I don't know that the acidity in coffee quite keeps up with the acidity in wine. But yeah, I mean, you can drink it right away. It just tends to open up. Give or take, the rule of thumb I tell folks is give it about 10 minutes after you're done brewing. And that's a good window of time for it to really open up quite a bit. You should definitely get something. This is a really well-rounded coffee, so you should be getting something that reminds you of, I would say, two big things. Chocolatey, right? If you get something that reminds you of like baker's cocoa, that's totally right on the money. And then fruit. I get a lot of like red fruit, like cherry, maybe even like red plum out of this. Both of those are kind of cheating because they're both stone fruits, and coffee itself is a stone fruit. So if you ever see stone fruit on the tasting notes for a coffee, that's because the roaster was a little hungover that morning.
That's great. So what is the standout characteristic that we're looking for in this specific blend?
If we're talking more broadly, it's adaptability. I mean, this is a coffee that tastes great for French press, for pour over. It does really well for espresso. Like I said, with the tasting notes, the big thing that I come back to is that fruit character. For me, that's something I really like. It's a little hard to suss out with some of the wine still lingering on the palate, but
go to your local Postino or any Upward Project restaurant and get this Upward Project blend because it doesn't matter what kind of machine you have. Okay, so now I think we're at temp, right? Let's give this a sec.
You might almost get like sugar browning on the nose, a little bit of like caramelly. But yeah, really a nice red fruit characteristic. Like I said, red plum, cherry. You might also pick up a little bit of like molasses almost. It is, I believe it's 3 parts of a washed South American coffee. I believe a Costa Rica, and then 1 part Ethiopia natural Guji. So the Ethiopia is what carries a lot of that fruit characteristic, and then the well-roundedness of it comes from the South American coffee. Having those two contrasting things married together really makes something that's kind of greater than the sum of its parts. You know, a lot of folks in coffee, they like to sort of turn their noses up at blends. I don't know if that's as much of a thing for wine. I know blended wines are all over. I don't know if people have strong, like, capital opinions about them.
Well, I think that's a badge of honor now. I mean, to just turn your nose up at things as a wine person, all right?
And it very much is as a coffee person. And I think it's a travesty because there are a lot of really good blends out there that people just won't even try because they don't see single origin on the label.
Yeah.
But if you look at, this one's a great example. I'll just throw this out there. Huckleberry in Denver has one of the best blends I've ever tasted. Their Phantom Limb. It's just a very intentionally curated, really solid blend. Obviously, our blend 48 is really
we're gonna bleep. So. We're gonna bleep that one out. So
no, we can give credit where credit is due.
Other coffee companies. I did get this review on Google the other day of someone went into our location at Ash and pleasant review overall. And then, but she did say I asked for milk. And she said that the barista scoffed at her.
We'll have to have a conversation about that. There's nothing wrong with milk in your coffee. Look, if you're enjoying yourself and you're not hurting anybody, you're not doing it wrong. That's what I always tell people.
But that's almost like it. That reminded me of like some sort of remnant of Cartel when it first started, though, and it was just really exciting to see because you can look up in the ceiling and see some old remnants of Cartel back in the day and how we used to be. That's what we were known for, was just like
snobby
baristas that were just really like, is that what you're going to get today?
We don't do that anymore.
Help them, not.
Yeah. We definitely want to, we have had that reputation in the past. It's not just us, it's kind of a specialty coffee thing. If you go about 10 or 15 years back, the snobby barista was just very in. That was a signal that you were getting something that was supposed to be quality. We obviously don't do that anymore. It's a much more, as an industry, we've matured a little bit and kind of realized that there's no reason to make people ashamed for liking something.
Oh yeah,
there's enough negativity in the world that we don't need to be putting any more into it. So I promise, come back, visit us. We don't bite.
That's the magic, right?
Yeah.
Like when you can combine incredible quality of product, like unmatchable quality of product, with authentic hospitality and a good vibe. And that's an unbeatable combination.
Absolutely. And that is, that's one of the things that makes me feel so good about our partnership with Upward, is that I see a lot of that exact approach here when I visit, both for, doing my tech work and dialing in, or just to visit to eat. I know I'm getting an elevated experience, and I know that it's going to be in a setting where it's going to be a positive experience outside of the sensory.
So can Upward buy us already, or call that an investment firm in California? We can use a little bit of an injection.
I'm really excited to see the path of growth that Cartel has been on, and this culture that has been so strong from the start, but is expanding regionally and broadening perspective, and I think you guys have an amazing road ahead. Can't wait to be side by side with you.
That is so good to hear. Thank you, Brent. Coming from you, coming from your team, coming from your company, for sure. So Sebastian, you said you're really proud of this Upward Projects blend.
Yeah, it's a very versatile coffee. I don't know if it caught me saying it earlier or not, but it performs well across all sorts of brew methods.
Yeah.
You can treat this in a French press for like filter drip, or for espresso, and it does really well in all of those. So it's really well rounded, and it's a good representation of what we do. It's a really solid coffee, and I'm thrilled that when people come to visit Postino or any Upward Projects venue, that this is the representation of us that gets shared. It's something that I'm proud to put our name on.
Yeah.
And I'm thrilled that so many folks now have access to it in so many different places, because it's great to get to tell our story a little bit in the process of providing coffee for you guys.
So we are almost at the finish line here. We got 5 minutes left on the clock. What we want to do is kind of talk about food and beverage coming out of the past few years, and we are seeing more people coming back. Foot traffic is growing, and I feel like people can't be held back. They're going to want to enjoy what they want to enjoy. But do you see this as still a recovery phase, or do you see it as we are now back to where we need to be?
It's so fascinating to think about the past couple of years.
Absolutely.
How challenging the journey has been for all of us in so many different ways. It feels like one of the most basic needs as a human is for connection, and restaurants are the place where that happens most thoroughly, most effectively. It feels like, based on what we're seeing here in Arizona and other markets, that people can't be held back from that need to connect with one another. And we're so grateful that we have a number of amazing spaces for them to engage in that process. And I don't know that anything will ever be the same, but it does feel like we're on a very magical trajectory right now.
Right.
And again, just couldn't be more grateful to be creating the space for people to have a great time, to leave their worries at the door, and to enjoy inspired food and beverage.
Yeah.
And coffee.
And coffee.
Delicious coffee.
Yeah. I don't wish for it to be the way that it was, because I think we needed to kind of be hit in the gut just a little bit to kind of recalibrate what is important, So I'm glad we are here where we are today, though, for sure. Yeah. Sebastian, do you have any takes on where you see the industry going? We already had a long conversation about the price on the price side with Mercanta and Jason, but with Leah and Jason, but
Well, specialty coffee, I think it's important to recognize that we're kind of living through a renaissance in coffee right now. People don't really acknowledge it, but even if you look at the way that we brew coffee, for instance, versus how we used to 10 years ago, the amount of data that we have available to us now versus then is night and day. And so we're able to refine our processes in a way that allow us to really highlight a lot of nuance we couldn't before, and to do so repeatably.
Yeah.
So there's never been a better time to be a coffee consumer, because we're rapidly figuring out better ways to do things. And I think on the production side, I'm obviously a lot less qualified to speak about that, but I see and hear a lot of similar sentiment. I expect that it's going to continue to grow and to bloom, and it's going to be really exciting to watch all the wild, crazy things that come out of it, because, if there's one thing that I can say about this industry, it's that it doesn't like to have a boundary set, and if there is a limitation, we'll find a way to cross it, come hell or high water. So
let's get back to Brent here. You don't have to disclose any of this if you don't want to, or kind of give broad strokes of it, but we had to make some sacrifices at Cartel, during the time period. But it was actually before my time, when it was really impacted and started gutting us from the inside. Do you remember one big sacrifice that you were just like, I really wish we didn't have to do that, but for survival, we had to?
There was a moment in the beginning of the pandemic when it was clear that restaurants were going to be shut down. And I can recall, an afternoon with the team, making the decision to reach out to the field and say, hey, we know that there is a bright horizon, but at this moment, we're going to have to shut down all of these restaurants. And so incredibly grateful that we were then able to, soon after, resume serving patrons to go and supporting our communities in so many, unique and fascinating ways. And grateful that some legislation allowed us to sell certain beverages to go. My partners and I, drove around the state of Arizona procuring mason jars, and that allowed us to provide over 12,000 margaritas to go for guests of our Joyride locations over the course of the pandemic. I think that was the most painful moment, was that that short period of not knowing what would happen. But as we noted earlier, this industry is beyond resilience, and it was so incredible to see how we rebounded and found creative and unique ways to keep satisfying the needs of our communities and our guests and our team members, and just can't express enough gratitude for where we are now.
Brent, do you have anything going on in the next couple of months that people should check out? And then we'll do the same with you, Sebastian, too, as well.
I love how you opened this door. And at each Postino location, whichever one is your Postino location, is excited to introduce you to a bevy of fantastic wines, beers, and coffee-based beverages over the course of this summer. But this next week is really exciting for us as we release the Jet Set Wine Cult box, which includes that out-of-office coffee. And if you're not currently a Wine Cult member, then it's a great time to pop in and taste a few wines and perhaps walk out with a new relationship, part of a new club, a cult based on wine.
For us, it's kind of same old. We're in the summer months, so we're definitely a little slower and taking time to re-examine all our processes in our retail areas and really make sure that our brewing is on point. We are doing some transitions for a couple of our specialty drinks that we offer at our retail location. So we'll be doing the CCL, the coconut caramel latte, with espresso now instead of cold brew concentrate. I'm very excited about that change. It tastes really stellar. And we're bringing back a slightly leaner but really quite solid espresso tonic as well, which is one of my favorite things for the summer months. You just can't beat that combo of effervescence and caffeine. Really, really will wake you up. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, shout out to Iconic Tonic too, right?
Yeah.
For providing us with some new tonic. I guess we also are coming on to our 15th year anniversary too as well. So, we'll find time to celebrate that, but that is a huge milestone for us. Cartel's releasing some new merch too this month, that we're pretty excited about. Seeing all of Upward Project's design has pushed us to go, okay, we need to wake up here when it comes to what we're feeding people's eyeballs, because I feel like this new merch set is going to really push us into some more of the younger crowd too as well for coffee.
I want to congratulate you guys. I think Cartel branding has been off the charts since day one. But man, I love popping into the location on Camelback and the one on 7th. Just feels good to be in that space, and I love what you're doing with the brand.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Again, I am Yunkin Keophomma, the marketing manager at Cartel Roast & Co., and also the host of Dying at the Bar podcast. Thank you for listening to episode 2, and I'm going to say farewell to Brent. Thank you, Brent, for being
for having me.
Yeah,
Stoked.
welcome. Sebastian, thanks again.
Of course, happy to be here.
Yeah, and we hope to get you two again, but in different configurations with probably like polar opposites in the industry or another industry, maybe hotel or something like that. So, yeah, but I appreciate everything that you two do, and I appreciate this partnership. Thank you.